I started thinking about how often I say the phrase, I love you. And honestly, it's pretty rare. Sometimes when I say it, it still feels foreign. Like I don't deserve to say it. Or maybe it doesn't carry the meaning I wish that it did when I do say it. I've been in 3 long-term relationships, and it wasn't until the third one that I started saying it more often. I love you. But even then, it wasn't natural. I remember during that relationship, she asked me why hadn't I said it yet? We had been dating for a while, spending time together, and she just asked, why haven't you said, I love you? And I didn't have an answer. It wasn't like I was purposely avoiding it. It just wasn't something I had ever done before, so it didn't feel natural. We'd have phone conversations, and I remember it being hard to get off the phone sometimes. Like the conversations would just linger, and I didn't understand why. But to her, she was waiting for me to say, I love you, as the signal that the conversation was over. And I never realized that. She had to actually confront me about it, bring it to my attention, and I remember thinking, how is something so simple so hard for me? Because I felt in love, I felt loved, but saying it every day never crossed my mind. Sometimes I think if I just show it, they'll understand. But that's not true. People need to hear it. They need it to match what you do. And for me, saying it was the missing piece. Now, I know in relationships, you sometimes have to teach someone how you want to be loved. But at the same time, it feels good when you don't have to teach certain things, especially something that feels so basic to most people. And saying, I love you was never something I did regularly. Over time, I'd get better, but I had to constantly remind myself, and even then, it never became natural. I'd forget a lot. I'd forget so much that I started to ask myself, do I really love this person? Because they're asking for something so simple, and I can't seem to be consistent with it. And then that question hits deeper. Why does this not feel natural to me? Why is it so easy for everyone else? Why does it seem so normal for everyone else to say something that feels so difficult for me? And that's when I started thinking about where it comes from. Because if something feels that unnatural, there's usually a reason, right? And I'm sure if I went to therapy, they'd ask me, how often did you hear I love you growing up? And honestly, it was rare. The crazy part is, I probably heard it more from my stepdad, and I don't even have a relationship with him. I don't remember hearing my mom say it. At least, not in my memorable childhood years. And that's not to say she didn't love me, because I know she did. I was her firstborn, and I remember the moments where she was proud of me, moments that mattered. But saying I love you wasn't something she really did. So maybe that's where I learned it. That love is something you feel, something you show, but not something that you just say. And now I find myself asking, if I don't say it out loud, do I really love that person? And sometimes I don't even know the answer to that. I always thought of myself as a logical person, someone who makes decisions based on logic, more than emotion, of course. But the older I get, the more I realize that's not really true, because I feel a lot, probably more than I show, definitely. From the outside, people might say I'm not emotional, but the amount of anxiety and sadness that I deal with internally doesn't match what I show. I'm not the type of person that I would just cry about things every day, and it's rare that I would just cry in general. But there have been moments, 4 that really stand out, 4 moments where I remember crying. 1, when I think about my father, especially when I watched old videos of him. He passed away when I was young, and I didn't really get to have a relationship with him. But I think the feeling comes from what I missed out on. The second time I cried was when my sister passed away. That was the first time I felt real anxiety, to the point where my body was shaking. I couldn't even lift my hand without it trembling. The third time I cried was after my second relationship ended. I didn't realize how much it meant to me until it was gone. And the fourth time was my third relationship. But that wasn't sadness. It was anger. Anger at myself for allowing myself to lose who I was, for staying in something where I couldn't be myself. And I remember crying, but it wasn't what it looked like. She probably thought it was a shared moment, but it was really me being frustrated with myself. I say all that to remind myself that I do feel things deeply. So then the question becomes, why is something like, I love you, so hard for me to say? And I still don't truly have the answer, but I'm starting to understand something. Just because something doesn't come naturally doesn't mean it's not important. Maybe some things you have to learn. Maybe you have to choose them. Because love isn't just something you feel, it's something you express. And I'm still learning how to do that. I love you.